Hey guys, this is Calvin Williams with Improver, and in this week's video, we're going to talk about understanding the challenge for continuous improvement. This is actually part one of a four-part series on Improvement KATA. If you haven't had a chance to read Toyota KATA by Mike Rother, I would highly encourage you to do that ASAP. In this video, we're going to talk about what is understanding the challenge, why it's so important, what are some best practices in doing so, and then we're going to share a few tips with you on how to get better at understanding the challenge for driving continuous improvement. So let's jump right into it. What does it mean to understand the challenge for continuous improvement? Understanding the challenge is gaining crystal clarity on the long-term desired state of operations for your business. In this case, we're looking at about 1 year for setting that challenge, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. When you think about your challenge, think about things like your vision or your mission or your strategy for a company. These things are almost synonymous, but your challenge is more just beyond the horizon, which we'll talk more in a second. What are some of the characteristics that you might see in a good challenge? Of course, number one, it's challenging. Number two, the time frame you're looking at is going to be between 6 months to about 3 years, and that really is driven by the market that you serve. And of course, number three, it's strategic in nature. So let's unpack each of those right here, right now. The first one, challenging. What I mean there is that it's going to require growth. It's going to require change. Obviously, if your challenge is exactly the same as your current condition, then there's really no growth required. You're already delivering to that standard on a consistent basis without much change or growth required. But if your challenge is great, if there's a big difference, a significant difference between your desired future state of operations and your current state of operations, you have a great challenge. That creates the need, that creates a vacuum that continuous improvement will fill. And when you think about a challenge, don't just think about the outputs and the results you want to produce. Also think about what you need to become in order to consistently and sustainably produce those results. The other thing we mean there is that it provides a definition of success. It defines what success means for your company. And the term I like to use there is, what does wildly successful look like for your company, right? If you were to say we were wildly successful over the next year, over the next 2-3 years, what would that look like for you? What would those outcomes look like? And then dial that back to, what do we need to become in order to become wildly successful as a company? The next one, time frame, between 6 months and 3 years. What you're really going for is to set your challenge or understand your challenge to be just beyond the horizon. And what I mean by horizon is, depending on the market you're in, you probably have a pretty good idea on what the near-term future will look like for that market, right? How you can produce the most possible value for your customer, how your competitors are producing value, and sort of where you fit in the market and how you can be most successful in creating value. So if you're in a volatile market that changes very frequently, you might want to set your challenge to be only 6 months out, right? Because creating a challenge is, in a sense, creating a forecast. And we know as continuous improvement people that a forecast is inherently unreliable. So you want to set your challenge based on what you can reliably predict, and then set the challenge to be just beyond the horizon. You have your knowledge threshold, and then the horizon is more of a read on the market itself and which way the market is trending and moving. And the third characteristic, of course, is that you want your challenge to be strategic in nature. You want to set a challenge that's going to give you a competitive advantage in the market. You want to win, right? You want your company to win. You want your people to win. You want new opportunities being created for everyone in the company. This can only happen if you are succeeding. And of course, the way to succeed in the market is to maximize or bring the greatest possible value. In fact, Toyota's strategy and the execution of what we now call lean manufacturing came from a desire to grow the top line. They realized that they need to dramatically improve the quality of their cars and reduce the cost of their cars. And by doing so, they can be a lot more competitive with some of the other global car makers like Ford and some of the European brands. So lean, even though we now understand it to be very bottom line focused, and sometimes we apply it more toward the bottom line, the real strategy behind that was to grow the top line, which they were immensely successful in doing. Okay, why is it so important to understand the challenge for your company? And there's really 3 reasons. Number one, it provides a general direction for improvement. Number two, it defines success for your company. And number three, it orients the company with the market or the customer. Let's dive into each of those here now. Provides a general direction for improvement. Understanding the challenge for your company aligns the organization behind a common goal, a common purpose. It gets everybody marching to the same drumbeat. This is a very important role of leadership, as the energies and the efforts and the attitudes of everyone in the company could be diverging and going in different directions, prohibiting progress. The real role of leadership is to bring all of that energy and all those resources into a common direction, and that's the direction that's going to help your company to be most successful. The other key thing here is that it sets the priority for your company. Up and down the chain of command, from the C-suite all the way to the value creation stream, a ton of decisions are being made on a daily basis for your company. In fact, a lot more decisions are being made the deeper you go into the organization. It's important that those decisions are made based on a common set of priorities, especially decisions regarding hiring, firing, promoting, and compensating people. Of course, you want to bring on people and you want to give more sway and more power to people who are naturally inclined and have built the skill set to take your company in the direction that it needs to go in order for the company to win. Number two, it defines success for your company. All changes are not improvements. Your challenge is what defines real improvement. In fact, investing time, energy, money, resources in changes that are not improvements is a form of waste in itself. It's a more effective use of those resources to apply them in the right direction, which is in the direction of your challenge. And of course, number three, it's a great way to reorient your company with the market and the customer. Markets are always in flux. It's natural for your company to get out of alignment with the market. It's really important to recalibrate on a periodic basis between what the market needs, what the demand is for the market, what the customer values, and what your company does. Your company's value proposition, to make sure you have a very strong product to market fit. Your challenge is going to be strongly influenced by the data, the trends, the facts, the things that are happening external to the four walls of your company. Not only that, you want to make sure you got a good grasp of the competitive landscape and understand where you fit in that scheme. All of this adds up to enabling you to achieve and sustain true market leadership. There's two ways to grow revenue as a company, and a revenue is a great measure of success in business. And there's two ways to grow revenue. That's increase your market share with a flat margin, or you can increase your margin if you got a flat market share, or some combination of both. Either way, the goal there is to maximize value creation for those customers and then orient your business in a way on an ongoing basis to ensure that you're delivering the maximum possible value. So, what are some best practices in understanding the challenge? I look at understanding the challenge as a two-sided coin, and I often talk about this in terms of your strategy as a company. On one hand, you got your strategy development. This is the what. This is understanding what you need to do to win in the market. On the other hand, you got strategy deployment. This is understanding the how. This is gaining alignment throughout your organization, and then the execution of that strategic plan. And there's tools on both sides to help you do both of those things effectively. On the what side, on the strategy development side, you got voice of the customer, VOC. You've got SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And of course, you got PESTLE analysis, that's politics, that's economic, that's social, that's technology, that's legal, and of course, environmental. And then on the strategy deployment side, you've got Hoshin-Kanri, which was made famous by Toyota. You've got journey mapping, which is gaining speed and momentum and usage. And you've got the X Matrix, which is a great tool to deploy strategies and objectives and align folks behind what's most important to achieve for the business. There are more tools out there, but those are a great place to start. A couple key points to call out here. No strategy is a substitute for culture and adaptability. A strategy, or even understanding your challenge, is in a sense a forecast. You're forecasting what you think the next year or 2 years or 3 years or even more will be like, and you're preparing your company to be successful in that future state. The reality is all forecasts are inherently inaccurate. To hedge against that liability, you want to create adaptability within your company. So adaptability and being able to embrace change and change course when new circumstances arrive, like the recent pandemic. Nobody saw that coming. The most adaptable companies always have a competitive advantage, generally speaking, Although understanding your challenge, thinking strategically, these things are also good practices to set you up for success in the future. And both of those need to work in conjunction. The other key point here is that an effective strategy includes the input and output of the entire ecosystem. That's not just your internal company, that's not just your employees and your peers and your bosses, but it's also the world outside of your company. It's the customer, it's the government, local government, national government. It's the environment, it's the people in the community that you serve. It's their children, it's the entire ripple effect that happens when your company delivers on what it does. Your challenge is made up of inputs from all of those things, and as you execute the deployment of your strategy, your cascading of aligning people behind the challenge and getting them to commit to helping you fix or address the challenge or meet the challenge, you want to make sure to capture both the inputs and outputs of all of those factors to enable your company to be as successful as possible. Before I get out of here, I want to share a few tips with you on how to more effectively understand the challenge. And those tips are: number one, focus on value creation. Number two, encourage creative commitment. And number three, execute, execute, execute. Let's dive into each of those here now. So the first one here, focus on value creation. The thing you want to do and develop as a culture within your company is to put the customer first. Obviously, with no customer, there's no business. There's no need to optimize processes and stream out the bottom line if there's no top line. So the key, understand who the customer is, who you would like the customer to be, and then put that customer first. And understand how they perceive value, and then configure your company around being the best machine out there to consistently create that value for those customers. Number two, encourage creative commitment from your internal organization. A great way to do this is to coach folks at all levels within your organization to not only understand the challenge, also grasp the current condition, and then set their own target conditions. It's a lot easier to engage the hearts and the minds of the people who are going to do the actual work by letting them decide and letting them look at their facilities and determine how they're going to contribute to helping the company to meet its challenges. And number three, execute, execute, execute. A plan without execution is just a dream. Yes, it's great to sit up in the ivory tower or even go on a fancy retreat and sit in the room and duke out this incredible strategy, incredible plan, understand the challenge, so forth and so on. The hard part is putting the rubber to the road and bringing that strategy to fruition. And that strategy and your challenge is not just hitting a certain number or producing a certain outcome or result. That challenge is becoming what you need to become to produce those results on a consistent and reliable basis. That's the challenge ahead. Again, this is Calvin with Improver, encouraging you to learn, do, teach, and transform. If you like this video, and I sure hope you did, you can find this one and more just like it at improver.com. That's IMPRUVER.com. In the meantime, feel free to like, comment, and share below, and I look forward to engaging with you further on this topic. Have a great day. Thank you.